Good morning.
Okay, good morning. Or it's good morning for you, good afternoon for me. So time is all relative. It is, time comes into existence when we rise as an ego, and it ceases to exist when we subside, as in sleep. Today we are going to talk about, according to the schedule, it's now, we've dealt with the first 3 verses of the main text of Uḻḷadu Nāṛpadu. Now today it's the 4th verse. And this is the first verse in which Bhagavan is really beginning to lay out the basic principles of his teaching. He did to a certain extent in the first 3 verses. In the 2nd and 3rd verses he points out everything, all disputes, all problems arise because of ego, so we shouldn't engage in disputes. But this verse is the verse where he begins to talk about the nature of the ego and the effect of the ego. Though he doesn't mention the ego specifically, it is all, if one reads on Uḻḷadu Nāṛpadu, we can see that this is the first verse in which he's really talking about the nature of the ego, which is the principal subject of Uḻḷadu Nāṛpadu, because the ego is the source of all problems, and getting rid of the ego is the solution to all our problems. In the first verse, he began the first verse by saying, because we see the world. And this is why any teaching is necessary, because we see the world. If when we don't see the world, as in sleep, there is no problem. We are not faced with any difficulties. We have no, we don't have any dissatisfaction. We don't feel any shortcomings. So only when we rise and see the world, we see that we experience so many problems. And he said in that verse that because we see the world, and who is seeing the world? It is we, though we is obviously a plural pronoun, but he's using it to refer to us, the one who sees the world. So actually it's referring to a single seer, the ego. But again, he doesn't specify the ego. So since it is, when the ego rises from sleep, we see the world. We can have many theories to explain how we come to see the world when we rise as an ego. It could be said that the world was created by a big bang so many billions of years ago, or it could be said that God created the world in 7 days, or it could be said that the world came out of the mind of Brahma. So many different theories we can come up with, but the fact is, no world is perceived in sleep, the world is perceived in the waking. So what is the simplest explanation of this? That when this one ego or mind rises, it projects this world. So this mind is a power that is able to produce all this perception of multiplicity. So since there is one mind that sees all this, one ego that sees all this, and the source from which it arises is obviously one, so Bhagavan says accepting one original thing that has a power to be seen as many is the best option. And then he says all these things, the picture of names and forms, the world, the screen and the light, the one who sees the screen and the light are all that one thing. So he begins the Ullľadu Nāṛpadu by talking about 2 things, about us and the world, we seeing the world. In the next verse he refers to 3 things. He says each religion first accepts 3 fundamentals, world, soul and God. And then he talks about the different disputes. Some people say that these 3 fundamentals are always 3 fundamentals, And some people say these three fundamentals are one fundamental. In other words, duality and non-duality. But Bhagavan says all disputes about these can occur only so long as the ego exists. Therefore, destroying the ego is the best, he said, in his conclusion there. In the third verse, he continues the same theme about disputes about the world. It's real, it's unreal, it's sentient, it's not, it's happiness, it's not. Bhagavan says, leaving all these disputes about the world, investigating and knowing oneself, and thereby setting aside all disputes about duality and non-duality, and thereby the ego perishing, that state is agreeable to all. So in these three verses he touched upon three things: world, that is our self, the seer, the world and God. And in this fourth verse he then begins to expound how the world and God appear as they appear. He says in the first sentence, well, I'll read the whole first verse first, and then I'll go through sentence by sentence. The whole verse is uruvam tan āyiṉ, ulahu maṭṛā, uruvam tan aṉฎṟēl, uvaṭṛiṉ uruvattai, kaṇṇuṛudal yāvaṉ, evaṉ, kaṇṇalāl kāṭciyuṇḍō, kaṇṇadutā, antam-ilā. The first sentence is uruvam tan āyiṉ, ulahu. Very simple sentence. If oneself is a form, the world and God will be likewise. That is, if we take up, only when we perceive ourselves as a form do we perceive the world as form, and because we see ourselves and the world as form, we can only conceive God existing as a form, because we take God to be separate from ourselves, and separate from ourselves the one who is seeing. We don't say, this person who is seeing the world, I am God. Obviously not. Though it is said, I am God, it doesn't mean the person is God. It means what we really are is God. But from the normal understanding, we experience ourselves as a person who perceives the world. Because as this person we are a form, so we see the world as forms, and so we can. And since we take God to be separate from ourselves, this person, and also separate from the world, God is also a form. So, if oneself is a form, the world and God will be likewise. The first word is uruvam, which means what? Form. And the form that Bhagavan refers to here is a body. And he confirms this in the link that he added when he turned the 40 verses of Uڵḷadu into one verse in Kalivemba by adding some extra words between each verse. The extra words he added just before this verse are uṇḍṛēpunnam, which is a relative clause that modifies uruvam. That is, it gives us more information about this uruvam, this form. So this relative clause means which is composed of flesh. So with these words, the whole sentence is, if oneself is a form composed of flesh, the world and God will be likewise. Doesn't mean the world is flesh. Obviously it means the world. If we take ourselves to be a physical form, we will take the world also to be a physical form, and God to be some other type of form. The crucial thing is, it's because we take ourselves as a form that the world and God will be likewise. He emphasizes this idea still more in the next sentence when he says, uruvam tan aṉḍṛēl. If oneself is not a form, uvaṭṛiṉ uruvattai, kaṇṇuṛudal yāvaṉ, evaṉ. Who can see their forms and how? That is, when we are not a form, as in sleep, do we see the world as form? No. Do we conceive of God as form? No. We are not aware of any form other than ourselves when we're not aware of ourselves as a form. In fact, we're aware of nothing other than ourselves. It's forms that create illusion of multiplicity. Forms are many, but the awareness in which all forms appear, the basic substratum, the screen on which all forms appear, we can say, which is pure awareness, is not a form. It's single, it's indivisible. It appears divided by the appearance of many forms on it, that in it or on it or whatever. So, Bhagavan says, if we are not a form, who can see their forms? That is, who can see the forms of the world and the form of God, or forms of God, whatever our idea is, and how to do so? Two questions he asks. Yāvaṉ means who, evaṉ means how in this context. So who can see their forms and how? So basically in these two sentences he's saying, only if we are a form, the world will, God will also appear to be formed. If we are not a form, there's no one to see their forms. So who will be oneself that he's referring to here, the time? When we experience ourselves as a form, that which experiences itself as a form, that is, that which is aware of itself as I am this body, is not what we really are. It's not the pure awareness. It is the ego that rises and says, I am this body. In a later verse, verse 24 of Uڵḷadu Nāṛpadu, Bhagavan says, the body doesn't say I. The body is insentient. The body is not aware of itself as I. Satchit doesn't rise. But between these two rises this spurious I, this spurious entity calls itself I, namely the ego. So the ego is neither the satchit nor is it the body, but it's something that rises between these two. When it's put like that, it could lead to the idea that the body is there and satchit is there, and the ego is something that comes between them. Though Bhagavan put it in that way, when we read this verse with an understanding of all his teaching, it's only when the ego comes into existence, the body and everything else comes into existence. So though he says between these two, it's not that there's really a body that exists separate from satchit. Satchit is the base from which this ego rises, and when it rises, it projects forms. It takes one of those forms, a body, to be itself, and through the senses of that body, it perceives the world of forms. And it may also have visions of God or whatever in form. But that is not really seeing God, as he clarifies in other verses. Really seeing God is just becoming uṇādō, becoming a prey to God, or becoming food to God is the real seeing of God. So if oneself is not a form, who can see their forms and how to do so? Then in the next sentence, is a very, very important sentence, because here he expresses the basic principle that he's setting out in this verse. And this is a fundamental principle in order to understand all his teachings, and particularly he says in other verses of Uڵḷadu Nāṛpadu. That is, kaṇṇalāⵍ kāṭciyuṇḍō. That literally means, can the I be otherwise than the I? Sorry, can the seen, what is seen, can what is seen be otherwise than the I? I here is EYE, the sense organ I. That is here Bhagavan is using the term I as a metaphor for awareness. Because it's through the eyes that we see the world. The eye is a metaphor for awareness, that which is sees. So here the eye means what sees. So basically the meaning, and kāṭci means what is seen. So basically the meaning of this is, can what is seen be otherwise than what sees? That is, if we who see ourselves as a form, we will see everything else as form. If we if we don't see ourselves as a form, we won't see anything else as a form. In fact, we won't see anything else at all. Whereas it's only form that gives the appearance, that gives rise to the appearance of otherness. Whereas obviously, a form is something that is separate from other things. Well, once you have one form, it's separate from everything else, so you get multiplicity. So all multiplicity, all duality is created by the appearance of forms. And forms seem to exist only when we see ourselves as a form. So this sentence is very, very important. Can what is seen be otherwise? The word he uses for otherwise here is alāl. Very superficially, this could be taken to mean, can what is seen exist without the eye that sees it? But though alāl can mean without, in this context, Bhagavan explained that the sense in which he uses it here is otherwise in nature, of a different nature. Can what is seen be of a different nature to what sees? So if we see ourselves as a form, we'll see everything else as a form. If we don't see ourselves as a form, we won't anything else, we won't see any other forms. And then in the final sentence of this verse, that is the meaning of the final sentence is kaṇṇadutā antam-ilā kaṇ. Here the word kaṇ again is the word that means I in the sense of ēyi, not I the first person pronoun, but I the organ of sight. So he says here the real I is oneself, the infinite I. That is, again, I obviously here is not, he's not literally using it in terms of the sense organ I. He's just what sees or what is aware. So basically I here means awareness. So what the basic meaning of this sentence is, the real awareness is oneself, the infinite awareness. The word for infinite he uses here is antam-ilā. Anta means end or limit. Ilā is a negative. So antam-ilā means what is without end, what has no end, has no limit, has no endless or infinite. So every form has a limit, but what is infinite has no limit and therefore is not a form. So basically what he's implying here, what we really are is not a form of any sort, but is just pure infinite formless awareness. So since our real nature is infinite, and since it can see only its own nature, what is infinite can see only what is infinite. What is finite can see only what is finite. So when we limit ourselves as this ego by rising as I am this body, by taking a body to be ourselves, we are limiting ourselves. We become finite. So we can see only finite things. When we remain as we really are, as we do in sleep, we're infinite, and therefore we see nothing but infinitude. We are not aware of any limits, any end in sleep. It's only when we rise again as the ego that sleep seems to have a beginning and end. But while actually sleeping, we're not aware of any beginning or end or anything other than ourselves. So in this verse, this is one of the most important verses. I mean, there are many very, very important verses of uruvam Nāṛpadu, but this has to be one of the most important ones, because here he's explaining how everything else comes into existence. Everything comes into existence, all multiplicity, all forms, all phenomena come into existence because we rise as this ego by experiencing ourselves as I am this body, I am this person. But as we really are, we are infinite, pure and infinite awareness, and therefore we are aware of nothing other than ourselves. This, many people, because generally people take a ṇāyi to be a body, we see Bhagavan as a person like us. He was born on 30th December 1879, and he passed away on 14th April 1950. Within that span, he had a certain story. He grew up as he was a child of some parents, and at the age of 16, he had a certain spiritual experience, but he had a fear of death, which led to a spiritual experience, and then he came to Tiruvannamalai. When we talk about Bhagavan as a person, he has a story, a history just like us. He seems to be a person just like us. But Bhagavan himself said, I am not this form, I am not this body. So we see him as a form, and so we see him as like ourselves. And so because we see him as a form, because we see him as a body with a mind, we assume that he's seeing the world just as we are seeing it. But actually how he sees himself is as a formless infinite I. And as such, he doesn't see anything other than himself. This is made very, very clear in this verse. But because we take a ṇāyi as a person, sometimes when people were talking about who is a ṇāyi, Bhagavan used to say, there is only one ṇāyi and you are that. Seeing a multiplicity of ṇāyis is imposing our ignorance upon the ṇāyi. But Bhagavan also used to say, Jnana me ṇāyi. Jnana alone is the ṇāyi. Jnana then means pure self-awareness. Alone is what knows itself. So there's the ṇāyi is not a person. Though in our view the ṇāyi seems to be a person, actually the ṇāyi is not a person. The ṇāyi is the antam-ilā, the infinite I, the infinite awareness. And as such, the ṇāyi doesn't see anything other than itself. Because the ṇāyi is nothing but that one pure awareness, the infinite reality, which is what we really are. Which is why Bhagavan said there's only one ṇāyi and you are that. So from this verse we can understand how the world comes into existence. It comes into existence because we rise as this ego. He emphasizes this point in so many ways in later verses, but this is the first verse in which he makes this very, very clear. All this multiplicity appears simply because we have taken ourselves as the form of a body. So what is the solution to all the problems we see in this world? All these problems seem to exist, and the whole world seems to exist, only because we have risen, projecting and identifying ourselves with the form of a body. So we are the root of the problem. We are the root problem. So we are both the problem and the solution, because of our when we're aware of ourselves as I am this body, that is a wrong awareness of ourselves. That is not what we actually are. That is an illusory or distorted form of self-awareness. So since it's our wrong awareness, our wrong knowledge of ourselves that causes all these problems, only the correct awareness, correct knowledge of ourselves will solve all these problems. So by not knowing ourselves, we've created all these problems. By knowing ourselves, we'll solve all these problems. So we are both the problem and both the problem and the solution both lie within us, and it's for us to choose whether we want to continue in this state or whether we want to turn within and merge back into our source, which is what we really are. this is in later, in subsequent months, we'll be going through more and more of the verses, and this is the basic principles that we're going to set out in this like a seed form in this verse. We'll find them expressed in so many different ways, and so many different implications of this. What he says in this verse will be highlighted by him in subsequent verses. So this is one of the most important verses for us, for anyone who really wants to understand Bhagavan's teaching. Well, the whole of Uḻḷadu Nāṛpadu is very, very important, but this is one of the key verses of Uḷḷadu Nāṛpadu.
See, it seems to set the stage for the rest of the remaining verses.
Yes, exactly. In Uḻḷadu Nāṛpadu, Bhagavan has explained many very, very important principles. But this is, in a sense, the first verse in which he's beginning to set out the principles which he elaborates upon in later verses. The whole problem is in the seer. Because we see ourselves as a form, we see everything else as form, all these problems arise. The problem lies with the seer, ourselves. So seeing what we really are, that alone is the solution to all these problems. We see other things only when we're not looking at ourselves. If our attention is focused only on ourselves, we'll not be aware of anything else. We're aware of other things because of our lack of keen self-attentiveness. That is what is called pramāda, negligence. And it is said in, there's an oft-quoted saying in Sanat Sajatya that Bhagavan often used to refer to. Pramāda is mritya, pramāda ve mrityu. That is, pramāda alone is death. And immortality is nothing but sada apramāda. That is eternal non-negligence, or eternal self-attentiveness. That is immortality. So if we look at other things, all problems arise. If we look at ourselves, all problems cease.
So why does this why does this pramāda even arise to start with?
If you ask that question to Bhagavan, he will tell you, first go and see if it's actually arisen, and then you can come. If you can actually find this pramāda, you come back and ask me about it. Pramāda seems to exist because we're looking elsewhere. If we look back at ourselves, we'll see that we were never a victim of pramāda. Okay, sorry about the interruption.
Okay, no problem.
All these problems arise because I rose as this, saying I am this form. All these forms of headphones and microphones and PCs and all this technology came into existence.
All these illusions. A question came up, Michael.
You can never get away from problems of one form or another, so long as we rise as this ego.
That's right.
So Michael, do you suggest we all go to sleep? Should we all just...
I think it would be an excellent idea. Let us all sleep eternally, but can we sleep eternally? The whole purpose of Bhagavan's teaching is to learn how to sleep eternally.
Are you saying eternally or internally?
Eternally.
Forever.
I said eternally, but also it's internally, both. The eternal sleep we can find only internally. Only by looking within we'll find the eternal sleep. But the eternal sleep is also eternal waking. Because Bhagavan said sleep is actually a state of pure awareness. Sleep, waking and dream are a state of complete ignorance. People think sleep is a state of ignorance. There's only knowledge of waking and dream. Bhagavan says quite the opposite. He says knowledge of multiplicity in verse 13 of Uڵḷadu Nāṛpadu ajñānamam. Knowledge of or awareness of multiplicity is ignorance. So if you want to be eternally awake, we must learn to sleep eternally. We must be asleep. It is said in Gita, what is day to the sages, to those who see, is night to others, and what is day to others is night to the sages. That is, we take, in our ignorance, we take this waking to be a state of knowledge, of awareness. But according to Bhagavan, this is a state of ignorance. If we want to, the state of eternal waking is only the state where we are asleep to the world forever and eternally awake to ourselves. Now we are asleep to ourselves and awake to all this Maya, all these forms that constitute this world.
Bhagavan addresses this in verse 1 of Ekatma Panchakam, right? Yes. If
that is, knowing oneself and being oneself is like waking up from a dream of wandering all over the world. But there's one that no analogy is perfect. That analogy is useful to a limited extent, because actually when we wake up we will know that we never dreamt at all. Because for whom is the dream? The dream is for the ego. But we wake up only when we find that there never was any such thing as the ego. So in the absence of any ego, there can never have been any dream.
Keva, you asked a question. Do you want to post that to Michael about leaving one physical body and ego grasping? Go ahead.
Hey, Michael.
Yes?
Okay, this is Madi again. So I've got a question. It says that ego exists only when it is grasping forms. Either physical forms or mental forms. Thought, perceptions, that kind of stuff.
Well, according to Bhagavan, all forms are mental forms. We take this table, this chair, all these objects around us, we take them to be physical forms. So Bhagavan says in ṇāyi, the world is nothing but thought. It's our own mental projection. In dream, we seem to see so many physical forms. We're aware of the physical world. But when we wake up, we realize that what seemed to be a physical world in dream was actually just our own mental creation. According to Bhagavan, this present state is likewise just a mental creation. So all forms are mental forms, mental phenomena.
Okay.
Yes, so I just clarified that point, so please carry on with your question.
Okay, thank you for that. So when we die, our ego still exists. In what form does our ego exist?
Okay, what dies? What dies is a body. But in whose view does the body die? When you wake up from a dream, your dream body is in effect dead. Will the people in your dream then go and carry that dream body away to a cremation ground and burn it or bury it somewhere? Will there be a funeral for you? No. We can only be aware of the funeral of others. We can never be aware of our own funeral. So the body can die only in the view of others. When we wake up from a dream, but we realize the whole dream was unreal. So there's no question of our body remaining behind in dream. So what dies is the body, but the body, from our perspective, when our body dies, it doesn't actually die, it just simply ceases to exist. It's one dream comes to an end. But because the dreamer is still there, the dreamer being the ego, he will continue dreaming one dream after another. So a very crude understanding of rebirth or reincarnation or whatever people call it is that the soul enters a body, lives a life, and then the body dies and the soul goes off somewhere and has to come back and enter some other body. That is the understanding of those who are not yet ready to accept. But the whole world is a dream. The whole world is just a mental projection. So the death of the body is just the ending of one dream. But since the sleep in which that dream occurred hasn't come to an end, the sleep being self-ignorant, the dreamer carries on and will project another dream.
Okay, then while we are waiting to be reborn or to grasp another physical form or to occupy another physical body, so where does our ego actually at that time, during that period of time?
Where is your ego in sleep?
I don't know.
Well, the answer is the same. The ego merges back into its source. And its source being you yourself. From where else will the ego come except from you? It rises from you and it subsides in you. So when we leave this body, sometimes when a dream ends, we enter another dream. Like if we wake up in the morning having dreamt, we feel with that dream comes to an end, we now feel we're in this state. But this state is just another dream. But sometimes when the dream comes to an end, we merge into sleep. So when this present dream comes to an end, there's one or two possibilities. Either we immediately start another dream, or we merge for a while in sleep. The most probable thing is that we'll merge for a while in sleep, because dreaming is a very tiring business. We're not able to dream more than 16 hours a day in this present dream. We get tired and we need to go back to sleep again. Because dreaming involves constant activity of the mind.
Okay.
So we all need to sleep sometimes. So after 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 years of dreaming this dream, we'll welcome a good sleep after that. But the sleep won't last for long, because unless we ourselves have died, like we, the ego, have died.
Okay, then if you relate this concept to the concepts of some other scriptures, like the concept of hell and heaven, what does it say about that?
Heaven and hell are in the same place as this world. They're all in your mind. Some people, even in this present life, their life is a hell. If we have been born in different circumstances, we could have spent all our life, for example, working in a sweatshop for 18 hours a day for barely subsistent wages. Or if we'd been born in another age, we could have been slaves, constantly under the orders of a master, being beaten and everything. Such a life is pretty much hell. But even if we have everything, even if we've got wealth, health and everything, are the rich people happy? They make hell of their own life because their desires are endless. They're never satisfied. So heaven and hell are in our own mind. If we are satisfied with the lot that God has given us in this life, that is, relatively speaking, heaven. If we're dissatisfied, even with all the pleasures, this life is a hell. So it's all in the mind.
So are you saying that the concept of hell, for example, from the other scriptures, where they say that God is actually torturing you in the hellfire. So
Right.
do you agree on that? And also if you relate these concepts to Raymond Moody's book, The Death Experience,
Yes.
those people who being interviewed and told the stories about their experience while they were actually literally die, for example, those having heart attack or having a cardiac arrest and being resuscitated, and they went through different worlds and meeting their, families who died before.
Okay. But who in whose dream does this book you refer to? In whose dream does that book appear? In whose dream does the idea that people have all these experiences appear? It's in your dream. So, and even if you yourself had undergone such a near-death experience, it's all part of your dream.
Michael,
If we accept one of the basic principles of Bhagavan's life, of Bhagavan's teaching, is that what we take to be waking is only a dream.
Michael, let me pretend for a while that I'm aware that I'm dreaming with
Yeah.
Bhagavan's teaching and your guidance explanations. Now, help me understand the fact, the significance of these stories where Bhagavan helped cow Lakshmi to attain liberation, or even his own mother. What was he doing? I mean, the soul is already liberated. Either you know it or you don't. Or even if you don't know it in one life, how is it different?
All these stories are all part of your dream. Even Bhagavan you're referring to is the person, the body, that was born in 1879 and passed away in 1950. That is what you're referring to as Bhagavan. What Bhagavan said about that is the outward form of the Guru. Bhagavan said, when sometimes when Bhagavan was explaining that everything is just a dream, then people said, but Bhagavan, how can you be part of my dream? Then Bhagavan said, the Guru is like the lion that appears in a dream of an elephant. According to a traditional belief, elephants are so afraid of lions that if they dream about a lion, that the fear of the lion will at once wake them up. So, though the form of the lion that the elephant sees in its dream is unreal, it's just its own mental projection, the result of seeing that mentally projected lion is an intense fear, and that intense fear leads to the awakening. So in the same way, when we see Bhagavan and read his teachings, that kindles in us, just like the appearance of the lion creates fear in the elephant. The appearance of Bhagavan and his teachings in our life creates in us a great love to know who we really are, to try to follow his path. And that brings about the real awakening.
Yes.
So the outward form of Bhagavan is our own mental projection. But whereas everything else that we project is a projection of our vasanas, Bhagavan is a projection of the reality within us.
So are you suggesting that the way we interpret the stories in our own mind is that that's not of any consequence?
Everyone will interpret these stories in their own way. We're all free to interpret anything in our own way. But when we first hear about Bhagavan and we hear about the liberation of cow Lakshmi, the liberation of his mother, the liberation of Param, all these, this is inspiring for us, it's encouraging for us. There's hope for us. If Bhagavan can liberate even a cow, even though it's generally said in the scriptures that only the human birth is essential in order to attain liberation, Bhagavan has shown that's not true. He's shown that it is possible even for a cow to be liberated. So this should be a great encouragement for us. So initially, this will encourage us. But as we go deeper into Bhagavan's teachings, we understand all this. The cow Lakshmi, Bhagavan's mother, everything is part of our dream. And the problem, until we wake up, one dream after another will continue. So we have to turn our attention away from all these stories, however encouraging and inspiring these stories are. Eventually we have to turn our attention away from them, back to see who we ourselves really are.
Thank you, that's very encouraging. Yeah.
The essence of Bhagavan's teaching is expressed by him in verse 44 of Aksharam, where he, instead of saying it as his teaching, he says what Arunachala taught him. Arunachala obviously didn't teach him words, but through silence, what Arunachala taught Bhagavan was Tirumbiya Hamjane Dinamaha Kankan Teriyum. So, turning inwards, daily see yourself, that repeatedly, constantly see yourself with the Din Ahakan, the inner eye. The eye, again, the EYE. So with that inner eye, the inner eye is the introverted attention. With that inner eye, see yourself daily with the inner eye, Terium, it will be known. So that is the essence of Bhagavan's teaching. That is what we have to put into practice. Otherwise, all these stories and everything, it's helpful for us to a very limited extent. But unless we put Bhagavan's teachings into practice, we are failing to get the real benefit which we should derive from his teachings.
So, Michael, all the news in the papers are like a dream. So, Syria is not a problem, North Korea, not a problem.
All these are very, very serious problems. You're in North America. You're probably a little bit closer to North Korea than I am. So if North Korea sends nuclear weapons to North America, that's going to be a serious problem for you, isn't it?
It is, yes.
Who is going to say it's not a serious problem? And Syria, it's a serious problem for the poor people in Syria. We can't say these things aren't problems. All these are very serious problems, so long as we are a form. And because we are a form, we see all these other forms, all these problems exist. If there's a sudden famine, supposing suddenly, for some reason, because of climate change or something, there's suddenly famine in the world and we're not able to get food, that would be a problem for us, won't it? Because so long as we take this body to be I, we need food. So we cannot say the problems of the world are not problems. They're very serious problems, so long as we take ourselves to be a form. They're no problem for us when we're asleep. But when we wake up and see all these things, yes, they're serious problems. Yeah. But what is the solution to all these problems? In order to, often when we go to doctors, they will see what our symptoms are and they'll give us some treatment that will alleviate the symptoms. But because they're just alleviating the symptoms and not the root cause, the problems will come back in some form or in some other form. So in order to really solve any problem, we have to go right to the root of the problem. What is the root cause? Only if we remove the root cause are we really solving problems. So according to Bhagavan, the root cause of all these problems, the root cause of North Korea, Syria, all these numerous problems in the world, the root cause of the appearance of Donald Trump as President of America, all these, the root cause of these things is you. Because you have risen as an ego, you see all these things. So if you want to solve all these problems, okay, so long as Donald Trump is in charge, things are not going to be good for the people of America or for a lot of the other people of the world. So it's good to get rid of Donald Trump. So we can campaign to have Democrats elected and to have a more politicians who are more interested in justice and fairness for all people. We can do all these things, but this doesn't solve problems because we've had better governments in the past. Sometimes governments are relatively better, sometimes they're relatively worse. But it's always fluctuating back and forth. None of these are permanent solutions. It doesn't mean when we see suffering, we do what we can to alleviate the suffering. If we see a hungry person comes to our door, we give them food. But when we cannot, there are numerous problems in the world, we cannot solve all the problems in the world. The only way to solve all the problems in the world is to wake up from a dream. And we can wake up from a dream permanently, but if this dream comes to an end, another dream will come, unless the dreamer himself comes to an end. So how to put an end to the dreamer? We have to see what we really are. We who are dreaming, who are we? What are we? When we see what we really are, we'll see that we've never been a dreamer, and therefore we have never dreamt anything, therefore there have never been any dreams. So Bhagavan isn't saying there aren't problems in the world, but he's saying yes, all these problems exist only because you have risen as this ego. Therefore see what you yourself are. That is the permanent solution to all these problems. So not only to all the existing problems we see in the world, but all the problems that could ever exist. Because problems can only exist if we rise as the ego. But have we ever risen as an ego? Now we seem to have risen as an ego, but Bhagavan says if you see yourself, you'll see that you always were as you always have been. You've never risen as an ego. You've never dreamt any dream. There never has been any Syria or North Korea or Donald Trump or any of these other things.
Thank you.
It's a question of reality. You think
Yeah.
reality is the world, that's your reality. You think reality is the self, that's your reality. Pretty much that's it.
What is real is only, Bhagavan says in the 7th paragraph of ṇāyi, who am I? Yatharthamai uڵḷadu atmasarupam aṉḍṛē. Yatharthamai uڵḷadu means that which actually exists. Atmasarupam aṉḍṛē. Aṉḍṛē means only. Atmasarupam means Swarupa literally means one's own form. So Atmaswarupa is the own form of oneself, our own real nature. That alone is what actually exists. And our real nature, Bhagavan said, is just pure awareness. So that alone is what is real. And pure awareness, because it's infinite, as Bhagavan says in verse 4 of Uṛudal Nāṛpadu, that what he refers to there as antam-ilā, the infinite I, is that is infinite awareness. Because it's infinite, it doesn't see any finite things. All problems are finite, but the infinite reality is not finite.
So one's own Swarupa is the reality.
That's all.
One's
Our
own
own
nature.
Swarupa, that's our own fundamental self-awareness. Now our self-awareness is mixed with awareness of a body, and we take this body to be I. But the pure awareness, bereft of all these adjuncts, that's why he says in Upadesha, seeing oneself without adjuncts is seeing God. Because God exists as oneself.
I won't quote this right, so correct me. But Bhagavan said, what's not present in deep dreamless sleep is not real. Is that
Exactly.
is that
That
right?
is true. Yeah.
Which is a total mystery.
For whom is it a mystery? It's a mystery for the ego, which wasn't present in sleep. But it's not a mystery for you, because you were present in sleep. So see what you really are, and the mystery of sleep is solved.
Right. Yeah, along that lines, I think there's another phrase, beautiful phrase in Nāṇyar, where Bhagavan says, Surupame Jaham, Surupame Nān, Surupame Ishwaran, Ellam Siva Surupame.
Yes. But he also says, this is all in the 7th paragraph, after saying Yathāthamai Uļḷadu Ekapma Surupamandre, he then says, all the Jagadjiveshwara, that world, soul and God, are all just appearances, they're imaginations in it, like the imaginary silver we see in a shell. So first he says they're all imaginary, then he said, when he says Surupame Jagam, Surupame Nān, Surupame Ishwaran, alāl Shiva Surupame, that is like saying the rope alone is the snake. What appears as a snake is only the rope. So also what appears as the world, what appears as I, this ego, what appears as God, all of them are only the Atma Sarupa, are only what we really are. What he refers to in the first sentence as Atma Sarupa, he refers to here as Sarupa or Shiva Sarupa. They all our own real nature.
Michael.
He's not saying that our real nature itself is the world, in the sense of, he's not saying that the world is what we actually are. What he's saying is, what we actually are is what appears as the world, what appears as ego, what appears as God.
Beautiful.
Michael.
Yes?
Back to my questions earlier.
Yes.
Regarding hell and heaven and afterlife. Now, if you don't mind, I would like to know what is your view about those concepts described by major religions, like the one in the Torah, in the Islamic scriptures, and some other major religions.
Religions cater for people at many different levels of their spiritual development. So there are so many, in every religion, there are so many ideas. And if we analyze those ideas, we'll find there are so many contradictions. The reason there are contradictions is because different things need to be told to people at different stages of their spiritual development. So we don't have to take everything that is said in any religion as true. In fact, you can't take everything said in any religion as true, because you'll find so many contradictions within each religion. Within the very, very broad religion that is called Hinduism, there are so many different philosophies, quite contradictory philosophies. There's even within Vedanta, there's contradictions. There's a Dvaita, there's a Vishishta Dvaita, there's a Dvaita. So many different ideas, different interpretations. All these are to suit different people at different stages of their spiritual development. But the ultimate truth is, everything comes into existence because we rise as this ego. And only when this ego comes to an end, all problems will be solved.
Welcome back, Michael.
Sorry about the interruption.
I'm going to repeat that question. I'll let you answer. The question was, I think one of the devotees here was asking, what happens? I think he's going back to that thing. What happens to the ego after the body dies? So I was trying to explain that it's actually a concept, just like the concept doesn't exist in dreamless sleep, and then it just comes back again when we wake up. So I think probably you can elaborate it better. So please go ahead.
In verse 26 of Uڵḷadu Nāṛpadu, Bhagavan says, "Aḥṛu antam-ilā." If the ego comes into existence, everything comes into existence. āyiṉ. If the ego doesn't exist, everything doesn't exist. yāvaṉ. The ego itself is everything. So when the ego doesn't rise, nothing happens at all. You can't say what happens to the ego when it doesn't rise. When it does rise, it rises by grasping the form of a body as itself. So if you ask what happens to the ego in sleep, well, nothing happens to the ego in sleep, because in sleep the ego doesn't exist. It's only in waking and dream that the ego seems to exist. It doesn't actually exist even in sleep, waking and dream, but it seems to exist. And because it seems to exist, everything else seems to exist. So to say what happens when it doesn't seem to exist, nothing happens. All happening occurs only because the ego seems to exist, because it seems to have arisen, to have grasped the body as itself.
I think we can also...
We can say it, if you want to say, ask what happens to the ego when it's in sleep, or what happens to the ego in death, it merges back into its source. I mean, if you want to accept that there is an ego. But when it's merged back into its source, it then doesn't exist at all. Then people ask, but how then does it rise again in the waking state? In whose view does it rise again in the waking state? In the view of itself. So these three states all exist only in the view of the ego. In the view of what we really are, the only state that exists is what is the state that we now call sleep, one of the three. But there's the only defect in sleep is that we come out of it. But in whose view do we come out of it? Only in the view of the ego. So it's all a matter of our perspective. So long as we see ourselves as the ego, all the three states will be alternating. When we see ourselves as we actually are, there will only be one state, which is sleep, the base from which waking and dream appears.
Michael, to permanently, so the thing is the trick seems to be the permanency of it, because we can have, I guess, very momentary, transient, fleeting glimpses, per se, but we don't even know if they happen because our ego isn't there. So for me to even know if I abided in that state, how do I, will I experience it, or?
Well, there are two types of state in which the ego has subsided. Bhagavan says in verse 13 of Padacchēdam, wait a second, ilayamum nasam irandum odakum. That is, that the two types of subsidence of the mind are laya and nasa. Sleep, death, all these states are laya. And he says what is in laya will rise again. What is, if its form dies, implying in nasa, it will not rise again. So we want something, we want the permanent non-rising of the ego. Why does the ego rise? It rises because we do not see what we actually are, because we are not aware of ourselves as we actually are. When I say we there, I'm not talking about our real self, I'm talking about the ego. As the ego, we are not aware of what we actually are. So in order to destroy this ego, we simply need to see what we actually are. That is the only way. So it's only by turning back within, trying persistently until we succeed to see what we actually are. It is so simple. We say, oh, this atma-vichara is very, very difficult. It seems difficult to us. Why does it seem difficult? How can it be, when we're able to know all these other things, how can it be difficult to know ourselves? The reason it seems difficult is we're not yet ready to let go. Because we're still clinging to the form of this body. We still take this body to be I. We still, we cherish this body. We want tasty food, warm clothing, a comfortable house, so many things we want from this body. We want security, so we want to have more money in the bank, we want this, we want that.
But Michael, but suicide is not the answer, right?
Sorry?
Suicide is not the answer, because easily we can get rid of the body, but we can't get rid of the thing, the feeling, what takes the body to be I.
Suicide is the body, but killing the, suicide is the answer, but killing the body is not proper suicide.
Right.
Sui means oneself. Suicide means killing oneself. Killing the body is not killing ourselves, because the body is not ourselves.
But I can't kill myself.
We have to kill ourselves, this ego. That is the solution.
But how can I kill the ego when it doesn't even exist?
It seems, how can you kill the, suppose you're walking along a path in the dark, and Bhagavan's by your side, and suddenly you see a snake lying on the road and the path in front of you. You're afraid, so you step back. Bhagavan says, it's not really a snake, it's just a road. Look at it carefully and see. If you take a stick and start beating that snake, are you going to be able to kill the snake? No. There's only one way to kill the snake. Follow Bhagavan's advice. Look at it carefully. See what it actually is. When you see that it's just a rope, you've in effect killed the snake. Not that there was ever any snake there in the first place, but there seemed to be a snake. So the only way to get rid of the seeming snake is to see what it actually is. In exactly the same way, the only way to get rid of this seeming ego is to see what it actually is.
See, it's a concept. The ego is not a form for you to kill or something physical. It's a concept. So the only way to correct it is to look at it clearly, right?
It's a concept, but whose concept is it? It's its own concept.
It's our own concept, right?
The ego alone is the one who... The ego is... Bhagavan said the ego is a thought. He refers to it as the first thought called I. But though it's a thought, it's the thinker of all other thoughts. Because it's only when this first thought, the ego, comes into existence, where all other thoughts come into existence. So it is a thought, it is a concept, yes, but it's a concept that exists only in its own view.
Right.
So the only solution to it is what the ego itself. Atma-vichara is not for our real self. Atma-vichara is only necessary for the ego. The ego has to look at itself to see what it really is. When it sees what it really is, it sees that it was never an ego. It was always pure self-awareness, which was always aware of itself. Then it's no longer the ego that is seeing that. People talk about a self-realized person. No person can ever be self-realized, because so long as we take ourselves to be a person, we are ignorant of what we really are. When we are aware of ourselves as we really are, we will not be aware of ourselves as a person. So the term self-realized person is a contradiction in terms.
But to the other people who take themselves to be a person, they will think that that body is self-realized.
Yeah. We see Bhagavan as body, and we say Bhagavan is a ṇāyi. yes, Bhagavan is a ஞாni, but because he's a ஞாni, that means he's not the body that he seems to be in our view.
Michael, is there sort of power or entity that gives rise to the ego?
No, there's nothing that gives rise to the ego, because the ego has never risen. See the ego, we always want to find some cause, but according to Bhagavan, the original cause is only the ego. So there's no cause beyond the ego. So the ego is the cause, it is also the solution. It's only by the ego seeing itself that all problems will be solved. There cannot be cause and effect come into existence only when the ego rises. So the ego is the first cause. So there can't be any cause prior to the first cause. But he said, when the ego comes into existence, everything comes into existence. How could there be anything prior to the ego to cause it?
So are you saying there is no primal cause, or whatever they call it, or God or something?
But for people who aren't ready to accept what Bhagavan taught us, we can say God is the first cause. But what Bhagavan has taught us is the first cause is nothing but the ego. Does God exist? God as a separate entity. Does God exist in your sleep? No. You have the idea about God only when you're in waking and dream. So it's only when the ego rises that world and God also rise. I'm now using the word God in the relative sense, the normal sense of the term. But just like the reality of ourself is Atma-swarupa, but the reality of God is Atma-swarupa, our own real nature. So that's why Bhagavan says, seeing oneself without adjuncts is seeing God, because God shines as oneself.
Now, who is subject to the law of karma? Is it the ego or the body?
The ego, of course.
But the body is the one experiencing the misery, the suffering.
Body doesn't experience anything. Body is just is jada. It's the ego who experiences.
So like, for example, the body is suffering from cancer, from any illnesses. That happens to the body.
If a chair gets hit by something and its leg gets broken, you say the chair is suffering. Metaphorically, we can say, oh, the chair has suffered a broken leg. But literally, the chair is not suffering anything. The body is not suffering. Just because a cancer grows in the body doesn't suffer, because the body is jada. But the body has no awareness. What is aware of the body as I is the ego. So it is the ego who is suffering.
What about a child?
So, Anoma, you have a question, go ahead.
What about a child?
What?
There's no ego, right?
Sorry, what was...
The question is, she's asking, what about a child who doesn't have any ego?
Every child has an ego.
Right. Yes.
Bhagavan used to say about children, their horns haven't yet sprouted. Children appear to be innocent because their horns haven't yet sprouted.
But the ego is there.
The ego is
Yes.
there, of course.
The ego is there, yes. Kombu in Tamil. The kombu haven't yet sprouted.
The mere fact that they have a body, because there is an ego there, right? So,
Yes.
I mean, just the mere fact of their existence, it
Yes.
implies there is an ego. Yeah.
Yes.
But since their ego is not yet sprouted, So,
Well,
I mean, the children...
It is in a germinated state. It's just beginning to sprout.
Okay.
It's not
But,
sprouting,
but
it's
very quickly you see the personality. If you see small children, 2-3 years old, if you put a group of children together, you already find politics is there. Someone tries to take a leadership role, someone else competes with them. All sorts of, you can see the beginnings of human society, even in a group of very small children. Some children will be quiet and watchful and will watch other children. Some will try to assert themselves. Some will be very timid, and all types of different personalities are already beginning to see any small. Go to a play group of small toddlers. You'll see the egos manifesting there.
Children are mean.
Various different ways.
Does it mean that since the children, their egos not, let's say, not matured yet, so whatever they do in their life, their attitude, their behaviors, or whatever they do are they subject to the law of karma too, or they have to hold accountable for what they're doing?
Yes. They're also maybe less so, but still they're accountable. Still you can see very small children. One child will bully another child. Its personality is its karma vasanas are already manifesting, prompting it to do that.
So Michael, is it better not to have kids at all then?
That was a real question.
It just seems like birth of egos. If the more children you have, just more egos and egos.
As a father, I think I want to say yes to that question.
Yes, it's better not to have any progeny.
Do you have progeny?
Yes.
Every thought we have is our progeny, isn't it? The whole world is our progeny, according to Bhagavan. So if you can remain without progeny, then, okay, you remain without children. But so long as you're producing all this progeny, every day you wake up, you produce this whole world, why not produce a few children in this world?
Complete the picture.
I'm just curious, Michael, does Bhagavan, when he was interacting with children, or did he prescribe any ways to attenuate the ego when we're raising the newborn? Let's say they're born like day one, their ego is it's about to germinate. So is there anything we can do, or?
There's nothing we can do. We each have to solve our own problem. We are each responsible for our own ego. So it's our ego we have to see, not the egos of others. Because according to Bhagavan, all the egos of others exist only in the view of ourself, this ego. According to Bhagavan, there's actually only one ego, and you are that. Well, once when Bhagavan was explaining this, when he was saying, Bhagavan was saying, in a dream, how many dreamers are there? There's only one person who is dreaming and seeing all. But in a dream we see so many people. All those people seem to be just like us, seeing the world just like us. But when we wake up, we realize we were the only one who saw that dream. So just like there's only one dreamer in a dream, there's only one dreamer in this dream. That is what is called in Indian philosophy, it's called Ekajiva Vada. The contention that there's only one jiva, only one seer. So that is Bhagavan's teaching. But then once when Bhagavan was explaining this, someone asked, Bhagavan, among all of us in this room, which one is the one jiva? And Bhagavan said, you are that. And then someone else said, oh Bhagavan, what about me? Bhagavan said, you are that. But we each know who is guilty, don't we? Who is actually seeing all this?
I.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. It is I who am seeing it all. This I is the ego.
Michael, back to the baby again. The baby again. So while the baby is still in the mother's womb, let's say in the first trimester, the second trimester, the baby actually already viable and moving and alive. So is there an ego during that period of time?
What you are doing now is what is called anatma-vichara. You're inquiring or investigating about what is not yourself. Bhagavan has asked us not to do anatma-vichara, to do atma-vichara. So investigate about yourself. Don't investigate about the egos of others.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you for that.
Be quiet.
I give this answer simply because I wouldn't know how to answer your question. who can say when the ego first manifests? Who knows? And what's it matter? Now we know the ego is here. There's a big, strong ego in me. Let me tackle this ego in me before I worry about the ego in others.
So my question was irrelevant then.
Irrelevant, yes.
Thank you.
Entertaining.
As long as the mamakara, ahakara, namakara doesn't come. So the baby, it doesn't have all that. Right?
And what
So
I
we
want,
can consider it as egoless.
one says in Nanya, I'm asking you all to, throw all this as a garbage, but you guys are still going back again and again and digging it out and analyzing this garbage and talking about different classifications. And this
Exactly.
So I think we just need to stop digging into those. Just focus on our awareness over and over again and again.
Michael, just one
But Bhagavan wasn't in favor of recycling. Nowadays we're told to recycle everything. It's good to recycle all other rubbish, but this ego we shouldn't recycle. We should throw it out once for all.
Exactly.
He is not as green as you.
Okay, last question.
just
Sorry,
quickly,
go ahead.
I'm
Yeah.
just wondering, Michael, like when we wake up, right now we're in the waking state, then we go to sleep, then we dream, then there is a state of no deep dreamless sleep. So these states just seem to happen seamlessly without my volition, whether I want it or not, but then one dream ends and the other one just starts. So how come this other state doesn't appear as seamlessly? Like,
How come it doesn't appear as...
Because I always wake up from the dream I'm dreaming at night. At night, maybe I was dreaming that I was with Michael in London. But now, I woke up from that, and I'm like, no, Michael is in London, and I'm here. But how come I can't wake up from this current state thinking that I am this body living in Houston? How come that dream I can't shake off?
The difference between... There's no substantive difference between one dream and another. There is relative differences. Those relative differences, these are difference in quality, not difference in substance. In some dreams, we are more strongly attached to the body. In this state, because we are strongly attached to this body, it seems to endure for a long time. In the dreams we have at night, in some dreams we find very flitting. One moment we're in Delhi, next moment we're in London, next moment we're in New York. We're talking to an old friend of ours, and suddenly it's our long dead father, and suddenly it's someone else. Things are in constant flux in some dreams. That is because our attachment to the body in that dream is very, very tenuous. But the stronger our attachment, the more solid the dream seems, the more consistent it seems, the more long-lasting it seems. So in this state, we are very, very strongly attached to this body, so it seems to be different in quality to the dreams we had at night. But even this seeming difference in quality exists from the perspective of ourselves in this present state. Because when we are dreaming, we always dream but we're awake.
Sorry, when we're
So
dreaming?
when we're dreaming, we seem to be awake. Sometimes we may get the idea, oh, is this a dream? But we can get the same idea even in this dream. But generally, while dreaming, we believe we're awake. So all these differences are all relative, and they're all from the perspective of ourself in this present dream.
I mean, I don't seem to have to do anything to wake up from sleep, from my dream last night, but I seem to have to invest and like put so much unwavering attention on my own self to wake up from this dream.
Well, no, because you never actually woke up. You didn't wake up from a dream last night. You just went from one dream to another dream. And so also in this state, if you, after 16 hours of work and or activity, we feel tired, don't we?
Yes.
Yes.
Sometimes we may go to bed with a book with an idea, I'm going to read this book, or we may decide to watch a film at night. And we're sitting in front, but we're so sleepy, we find we're falling asleep, dream is coming before, we're sort of slipping out of this dream into some other dream. So it's actually the same thing is happening. It's not really, it's just from different perspectives. It seems different, but actually the same thing is happening. One thing, if you while you're dreaming, if you remember to try to practice atma-vichara, if you try to attend to yourself while dreaming, it won't always happen, but often in dream, if you try to attend to yourself, it will wake you up. The reason for that is because we are not so strongly attached to that body, that attachment is more easily broken. But it's not a significant break because the attachment to that body is broken and we come to some other body. So we haven't really gone very deep into self-investigation, but even a little superficial self-investigation is sometimes sufficient to wake us up from a dream. Whereas in this state, we are not able to achieve the same, even greater intensity of self-investigation because of our strong attachment to this body. So it's all to do with the strength of attachment.